Morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? My name is Rahmon.
And I'm Maatin.
And we are Loud, the multi-award-winning music creative agency recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30, Campaign Magazine, and also Cannes Lions. We take care of everything music and sound for brands, creative agencies, and production companies. From sync and licensing, original songs, anything music, we take care of it all. We also have a secret weapon. We use data and science to test the marketing effectiveness of music in your campaigns. Now, today, we're going to be talking to you about how you can use music to authentically connect with the culture. Now, before we get into culture, we really need to understand what it is. And to be honest, it's quite a difficult thing to describe as it's something we all feel. The way I would define culture is it's the customs and the norms of a particular society, but it's something we see in films, TV, movies, and music is super important to culture, which we'll get into. Now, the stats even support this. 88% of Gen Z consumers say that authenticity is important when it comes to deciding which brands they support. 38% think that a brand's involvement in culture is important as well. And a brand's cultural makeup, it takes up 25% of purchasing decisions, showing how powerful culture is to those decisions. In fact, 39% say they prefer brands with high cultural relevance. If it wasn't more obvious, culture, culture, culture. Now, the reason why music is so important is it's the only facet that permeates all different parts of culture, whether that be advertising, film, TV, or sports. In fact, when it comes to Gen Z, the difficult demographic apparently, 90% of them stream music, and that's more than other activities such as playing video games or watching videos on YouTube. In fact, 68% say that they prefer a brand that uses songs that they like as well. And 55% think of music when they think of pop culture. And this is obvious, right? We all have our favorite artists. Any Swifties in the room? Beyonce? There we go.
So in summary, well, firstly, 80% of Gen Z say that audio allows them to explore different sides of their personality. And the reason for this is because music plays such an important part on the brain, which is the most important organism in the body. When you listen to music you like, it releases dopamine, which is the happiness neurotransmitter. That's why whenever you enjoy music, you get that feeling of pleasure. Music also affects the limbic system. That's part of the nervous system which affects emotions and moods. That's why listening to certain songs can invoke certain emotions. And music is so powerful, it can actually affect the mood even if you don't recognize the song. But by listening to music and recognizing the notes, it can change the way you feel. And sometimes, studies have shown that music can actually reduce and numb the feeling of pain. That means it can actually be as effective as a paracetamol at times because it can actually reduce the pain you're feeling. Again, highlighting the power of music. So in summary, music can permeate all facets of culture, which means that brands can use music to authentically access the culture globally. And we're going to go into a few examples of how this is done in all facets of culture.
Music is magic. That sounds great to me. Now, who remembers Black Panther, the really famous movie? Again, music was a key part to that with Rihanna's comeback. She did an amazing song, which was a tribute to the lead actor who sadly passed away. Now, bringing it back to 2025, we have Sinners. Ryan Coogler again. This was a smash hit film where the score was very powerful. There are a lot of references to blues music, Irish folk music as well. In fact, in Cannes, we had a performance by Miles Caton, who was the lead actor in Sinners, and he's a friend of the business. You also have Star Wars, if we're taking it way back. Who remembers Darth Vader and Hans Zimmer? Again, these motifs and themes instantly remind you of those characters, again showing the power of music psychologically. And of course, you have Spider-Man as well, where Metro Boomin, who was involved in the Drake-Kendrick beef, actually came up with a contemporary soundtrack featuring some of the best contemporary artists. In fact, music and sport as well, another facet. That was really powerful. Now, not to offend the Americans in the room, but we didn't really stay up for the Super Bowl to watch the football. We stayed up to see Kendrick Lamar perform. Previous years, Beyonce has performed, again showing the power of music, and it shows again how brands, i.e. Apple Music, can embed themselves in culture through music and icons.
And then, of course, you have the Champions League and the famous anthem. So the anthem was composed in 1992 by British composer Tony Britton, and it was adapted from Handel's Zadok the Priest. The whole idea was to give that feeling of majesticness and grandeur, perfect for Europe's premier club competition. Many players have said that when they listen to a Champions League anthem just before a game, it gives them that extra 10% they need to perform on that pitch, again showing how powerful music can be.
Absolutely. Now, taking it to social trends, we saw how important music was. For example, with Netflix, Stranger Things, so many songs from the 80s were coming back. It got to a point where old school artists were being seen as new ones. I heard some Gen Zers on the bus saying, "Who's Craig David?" They thought he was a new artist. You have Beyonce as well, who's just finished up her tour, which was absolutely amazing. Again, making country music contemporary, something different. Again, showing the power of music in starting new trends. We've already spoken about the rap beef. I don't know who's a Kendrick fan or Drake fan here, so I'll remain neutral. But again, we saw the most amount of streams happening in hip-hop because of the social trends and fan culture getting involved. And throwing it all the way back to the Don't Rush Makeup Challenge, which was a makeup transition challenge, one of the first viral TikToks that happened back in 2020.
And then we have music and gaming. So if you start with Grand Theft Auto, well, you have the whole series. Music is an iconic piece of the game. They have many original scores, and they actually have an in-game radio where people are always trying to be on. They now have 5 soundtracks for the different games and over 20 hours of music. There's even talks of a few artists having their own in-game radio for the new Grand Theft Auto when it comes out, but we've been waiting for years, so let's see how that goes. And then, of course, you have performance in games. So we had Marshmello. You had Marshmello perform, and he had 10 million concurrent viewers. That's actually more than some TV shows get. That's 10 people listening to a music performance in a game all at the same time. And then Valorant. This is the fastest growing esports game currently. And very regularly, Riot, or the makers of the game, will release new characters to try and balance the game and even it out for the top esports teams. Now, what they've done is, for each character that they release, they create a backstory for that character. Each character has a history which is tied to a particular country or tied to a particular culture. And what they've done is release a song specific to each character and player when it gets released. Now they have over 30 characters, and they have an album on Spotify with each of the songs, which gets over 3 million monthly listeners. Imagine, 3 million monthly listeners for songs in a game and tied to a character. And of course, FC24, previously known as FIFA, a game series with over 31 different editions. Very regularly, top artists and also upcoming artists are always trying to get the song into a game, and it's a real badge of honor when they find out that they're inside. So what we can see is that brands can use music in advertising to authentically access the culture. We've spoken about how brands can use, or how music is used across culture as a whole, but let's talk about how it can be used in advertising. And the reason for this is because music as a whole is super powerful. Music can subconsciously influence a person's purchasing power. Music increases emotional intensity, which means a product is more likely to be bought, and customers are more likely to be engaged with that brand. I've seen there's a 63% point increase in the average feel-good factor when consumers enjoy the music in that advert. So let's look at some examples. Well, you have licensed music. So this is the idea of using a popular track. And we have Levi's. So advertising agency BBH has worked with Levi's for over 28 years. And in that time, they were known for using iconic music. They had 7 songs which topped the UK #1. Most famous probably being Boomtastic with Shaggy. When that advert came out, it went viral at that time without any social media, so you can see the impact it had. And then, of course, John Lewis. John Lewis has been doing Christmas ads for the last 15 plus years. And every year, that Christmas ad is awaited with bated breath. And they have a specific formula when it comes to music. They'll take a known song and get a new artist, normally British, to do a cover of that song. And a lot of the time you see that that song ends up getting an extra boost in the charts, showing again how powerful music can be. But unfortunately, when it comes to licensing music, especially in the social media age, a lot of brands have not been doing it well. Gymshark has been sued $44 million. Peloton has been sued $150 million. And the main reason for this is if I use, let's say, a Beyonce song on my own personal TikTok, no issues. But if you do the exact same TikTok and have the exact same song on a brand's page, they're now infringing because you're using it for commercial use. There's been over $1 billion in lawsuits for this reason. And literally, just a few months ago, Marriott Hotels was sued $150 million because they had over 1,000 pieces of infringement on their social media content on TikTok and Instagram. So it's definitely something to be careful of. But because of this, we've seen that a lot of brands have now started to use bespoke music in their adverts. We have Tom Grennan, who did a bespoke song for Gillette. "A best a man can get" was their tagline for over 35 years, and they decided to make this into a song, which went so viral that consumers were asking for it to be released on Spotify, which now has been done. And of course, the famous Just Eat song with Snoop Dogg, which is now recognizable, and they did a new version last year with Katy Perry and with Christina Aguilera and Lato. Again, taking that same song and revamping it. And we actually did a bespoke song with Samsung for the Go Jet It vacuum, which we'll get onto a bit later. Now, I've been told I'm very short on time, so I'm going to whiz through the rest of it. But you can actually have music outside of just the actual advertising campaigns. To be in culture, you can actually use music to get involved in experiential campaigns. You have Glastonbury Festival, the biggest greenfield festival in the world. Vodafone did a partnership with Glastonbury to be their connectivity partner. They provided Wi-Fi, an internet connection for everyone at the concert, and they created their own Vodafone and Times Glastonbury app where customers were able to find their favorite artists, find which field to go to, and it also did a partnership with Spotify, so you could actually recommend artists who were performing based on your Spotify recommendations. And then Coachella, Amex did an activation at Coachella, leveraging into the Y2K phenomenon and the idea of nostalgia.
Yes, exactly. So again, showing the power of music. Again, tight on time, so I'll pick my favorite artist in this picture. So Dave, one of the most iconic artists, did a collaboration with New Balance. It was a complete shock. People were really excited. And in fact, it's pretty smart for a brand to do this because their fans are immediately going to flock to buy the new product.
And then, of course, you have Sonic logo. So this is the idea that you can have a Sonic representation of the brand, which makes your brand instantly recognizable in literally less than a second. So some of the most famous, McDonald's, Intel, Netflix, and of course, PlayStation. Now, coming quickly onto AI-generated music, which is always a new topic in today's age, we see that a lot of brands and agencies have always been interested in how they can use AI music because of how cheap it can be and the speed at which it can be done. But we've seen there's been a lot of lawsuits because a lot of the time, the top companies in this are training their music on copyrighted data. This means that if a brand uses this, they can actually open themselves up to lawsuits. So there's always something we say to be mindful of. Now, we've done a lot of talking about how important music can be, but we're talking about music. So we're going to play you our show reel, which has some of our favorite campaigns that we've worked on with bespoke music. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking and let the music speak.
Hey mama, your skin look proper. Got Fenty beauty, you a time stopper. Lip gloss shining, girl, you a stunner. Hey mama, your skin look proper. Got Fenty, you don't need no other. Baby, how you flawless. Brand new, looking so fresh. Come swing my way, I think you stay.
ends in my night trainers. White vapors, fresh out the box looking like flavors. If I give man a tip, then that's life changing. I got 8s and 9s, but the size ranges. And you better know I'm on an Air Max ting. If you step onto my crib, then I will air that ting. Are you ready from the ends? Do you really hustle? Grab the JD back and make it be shuffle.
Life give me lemons. Oh, I'll make lemonade. Ain't got no problems, ain't got stress. Cause with a little finesse, I'm gonna shake it off.
Oh, we like shiny, make no mistake. No ifs, buts, or maybes. We don't do that.
No chance.
Nah, we don't wanna break. Got careers to make. We wanna be as big as can be. No smaller. We want things that fit to a T. Like bright lights on Tuesday nights. The screaming devils are out, far and wide. Eyes on the prize, no lies, thank you and goodbye. Of course we're glory hunters.
What else would we hunt?
A taste. I've been in the mood for a change of the flavor. Ben & Jerry's caramel choo-choo craver. Cookie dough shape or the half-baked strawberry cheesecake. Can I get a taste?
I just need a chocolate brownie. Put them all around me. Swimming in the flavor, don't drown me. If you see me take another scoop, just allow me. I still do it proudly. Salted caramel brownie I like. Strawberry cheesecake, apple of my eye. Sunny honey home, I just want another.
So yeah, I'll stop it there, but that's some of the campaigns we've done. Hope you enjoyed the music. You know, it's not every day just listen to talks. And yeah, if you'd like to connect or sign up for our newsletter, please scan the QR code here. Thank you.